Good evening, friends, family, lunatics. I'm Chris, host of the Blue Ribbon Podcast. We're going to just kind of have an open session, open topic. We'll take questions from the audience. We'll talk about some of the stories that have been happening this weekend or this past week in the market, and just see where it goes. Um, you know, there's some drama, for lack of a better word, heating up around government intervention in the market. We're going to talk about that. Um, what should be the role of the state in the market and the relationship between brokers and carriers? With this company, this program, this platform has always been about giving information from our perspective and our experience. I started the podcast 10 years ago, just trying to leave a trail of crumbs behind me as I tried to figure things out. And everybody, if you've gone back and you've listened to all that, you got to see the ups and the downs and the successes and the failures. And there had to come a point along the way where I had to take responsibility for the failure when it happened. And so that's a big part of what we do here. When we bring people into our 18-month program, it's all about teaching them accountability, both, in their actions and how they interact with the customers, how they take care of the truck, how they document things. Um, that the when I meet serious business people, and it could be brokers, it could be truck operators, it could be carriers, it could be friends that are in other industries. I can tell who's serious about being in business by how they walk, how they talk, how they act, um, their ability to understand what's happening in their business, what their revenues are, what their profits are, what areas of their business need improvement. And what I find among serious business people and I'm talking people that have been in business 5, 10, 15, 20 years, is that um, they never devalue someone else's work. Okay. The really good brokers that I know, I've never heard them talk disparagingly about truck drivers. Now, have they had issues with individuals who were operating under the term truck driver? Yes, they have. As have I. But I see so much less judgment and dehumanization of others when I'm talking to real serious business people. A good friend of mine a long time ago said, never argue with idiots. They'll drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. So, there's certain people that we're not going to associate with because of their attitude. And that's one of my biggest frustrations since I crossed over, which let's see, it's been 15 years since I was an employee truck driver, right? Before I started down this path, and crossing over from employee truck driver to owner operator and through everything that went through that, it really, really gets under my skin when I hear people make prejudiced statements. The brokers. Well, you're taking an entire group of people, and number one, you're assigning a negative value to them simply because of the job that they do. Then you go even further and you start attacking their character that you don't even You don't even know them. You've never had a conversation with them, yet you're going to start attacking them as some sort of evil. And then you're going to, the biggest mistake that a lot of you are going to make is you automatically assume that the job that they do is of no value and you could do just as good as they could. Well, I can tell you from 15 years of operating trucks and now operating a fleet that I could not step into a broker's job and do as good a job as they do because it's a skill set. It's a craft. And the ones that have been in it 5, 10, 15, 20 years, they know what they're doing. When I see people, and I just saw, it's not even trucking. I'm just flipping through my FYP on TikTok. And this woman, I just scrolled right past it, but this woman, Amazon Prime is a scam. We are now, we have devolved to a place where if we don't understand how something works or take time to understand how it works, it's automatically a scam. Somebody must be ripping me off. No, they're not ripping you off. You just don't know how it works. And so the biggest transition that I personally had to walk through from moving from an employee to a business owner is understanding my limitations. There were lots of things that I did not know. Lots and lots and lots and lots of things that I did not know. And for whatever reason, I was fortunate enough to know that early, that I didn't have all the answers just because I could hold a steering wheel and shift gears and back into a dock. And so I began to seek out people who had that experience and say, okay, well, how did you do that? And sometimes maybe I didn't care for the answer, right? Or maybe I didn't want to do it that way, but at least I was willing to listen. Now, you'll probably, like a good example last night, I did a 3-hour live on TikTok. Okay. And I did say that Western Express is garbage. Okay. I did make a prejudiced statement about a company. Well, if the shoe fits. Okay. Now, have I had personal experience with Western Express? No. I've had one of my trucks run off the road by one of them, and I had a friend went through their training program, and what a nightmare that was. But there's lots of people that have opinions about Landstar, for example, that have never had a truck leased here. There's also another contingent of folks that did have a truck leased here, couldn't figure out how to make it work, and it was Landstar's fault that they didn't make it. Was never their fault. It was never, well, I just couldn't figure out how to make the system work for me. I couldn't figure out how to find the loads. I couldn't figure out how to build the relationships. Because in order for, in this example, in order for Landstar to be the problem, if the root cause of the problem is Landstar, then we wouldn't be making any money. We wouldn't have any relationships. But it can't be two things at once. It can't be, well, this person or group of persons has a great experience at Landstar and this person doesn't. And then it'd be Landstar be the problem. That's just not possible. So I get frustrated because I see the people like myself that try to put ourselves out there and for no gain. Y'all know what I made, what I earned for 3 hours on TikTok last night? 45 cents. My phone lit up after a 3-hour live and it said, your live rewards, 45 cents. I made 15 cents an hour. Now, why should I not be frustrated and upset that another creator could go live for 3 hours and make $10,000? Well, either A, they have figured out the algorithm better than I have. B, they make better content than I do. There's reasons that they can go. I mean, look at Whistling Diesel. Look at Cletus McFarland. People on that have massive YouTube channels. I have a YouTube channel. We've got 247 episodes. I don't have $4 or $5 million like Whistling Diesel does. I don't have those things. So if I was to behave like most of these truck drivers, I would be screaming, somebody should do something, because that guy over there is making more money than I am by doing TikTok lives. When I saw that I made 45 cents, I just chuckled. But that tells me that is a signal to me. Hey, buddy, if you want to make money off of social media, you need to do a better job. You need to produce more content. You need to be more consistent. I need to figure out how to do it. I'd love to make money off of this platform. But y'all, all of the money added up that we have made off of this platform over the last, we've been on YouTube probably 5 years. Wouldn't even pay for a week of fuel. Now, I'd love for it to. I mean, I'd love to monetize this product, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm not willing to do. I'm not willing to do the hooks and the things and there's just a lot of stuff that I have really bad secondhand embarrassment, right? And I see people do things and I just, I could never do that. And because I'm unwilling to do that, or I'm also not willing to give up time that needs to be spent on the business to work on social media, there's no financial reward. So if you're frustrated as a truck driver with your income, maybe you need to learn something different. Maybe you need to go figure out how to haul different kinds of freight. Maybe you need a hazmat endorsement. Maybe you need a TWIC card. Maybe you need to go work for a tanker company and learn how to do that. There's things that you can do, but my biggest frustration with a bunch of you is you don't want to do that. You want to go to the government, the people that have done such a great job over the last 250 years enriching our lives. You want to go to them and have them force your friends and neighbors under the threat of violence because you're not willing to do what it takes. And then all of the people that have been willing to do what it takes and have done what it takes and then have reaped the rewards, monetary and otherwise, for doing that good work, y'all want to come up to our level with no effort. You want somebody else to force somebody. So, we've got this guy that has come up with this. I'll put it on the screen here in a minute. So this guy here, let's let you look at him. This is him, the AAFFTRA. He wants a $5 a mile minimum, a 3% cap on brokers, and a $1 a mile minimum for drivers. That's what his little platform is all about. Now, this guy's a company driver. He is not an owner operator. So let's put this up here. The American Freight and Fair Transportation Reform Act. Okay. They want the president is urged to immediately enact the provisions of this act and establish the Federal Infrastructure Regulation and Enforcement Agency, FIRE, via executive order to address this crisis with the urgency and authority required. Executive order. Let's bypass the Constitution. Let's bypass every principle of liberty that this country was allegedly built on. We're going to have a guy that some people hate and some people love. Now, remember, there was a guy just a couple years ago that a bunch of people loved and a bunch of people hated. And when he did executive orders, everybody was mad. But because we want this guy to do what we want, then we want him to violate that very same principle of constitutionality and get his pen out. Remember Obama, he had a pen and a phone and he was going to do all kinds of stuff. How'd that work out for us? For the purpose of this act, it defines carrier, broker. Here we go. Line haul rate. Section 3. Mandatory rate minimums and compensation. Minimum line haul rate. All freight hauled in the United States shall be subject to a minimum line haul rate of no less than $5 per mile. The rate shall be the hard floor on all line haul rates with the intent of protecting carriers from predatory underbidding and ensure fair compensation includes, tolls and all this stuff. Okay. Well, I got a question. So a lot of people are upset about things being expensive, right? Everybody's, everything's so expensive. Well, this is a chart from the St. Louis Fed that shows the monetary supply, the amount of money in circulation. And let's look over here. It naturally just kept rising. Let's just zoom in right here. What do y'all expect is going to happen right here when the monetary supply goes from here to here with the stroke of a pen? When the number of dollars in circulation goes up, it makes the currency be worth less. The idea that you can, with the stroke of the magic pen, double freight rates overnight, you reckon that's maybe going to have an inflationary effect on all the goods in America? You think that's not going to have some effect on the cost of milk and fuel and bread and food and potatoes and produce and electronics if you just on a whim double the cost of freight? And why? Our cost to run is $1.70. So if you put it at $5 a mile, well, we're going to make some healthy profits. That's my biggest problem with these people is they don't actually know what it costs to run a truck. They just think $5 a mile sounds good. And $1 a mile minimum for drivers. Well, that sounds good. I should make $1 a mile. I sleep in a truck. Well, congratulations, buddy. We've all slept in a truck. That's trucking. If you don't like sleeping in a truck, you probably ought to go find another job. But never once do y'all think, well, how can I make myself more valuable? What new things can I learn? How can I improve my standing in the marketplace? I don't hear that among any of these people. It's we're going to demonize a bunch of people. We're going to make stuff up. The number of people that I see in comment sections that honestly believe, oh, brokers are getting 40 to 50%. Not only is it not true, it's completely illogical. You're taking a bunch of stuff out of the equation. Like, for example, the people that are writing the checks. All you have to do, if you want to try to understand why something's happening a certain way, well, just put yourself for a moment in that person's shoes. So let's put ourselves in the shoes of the customer for just a moment. Your job now, it's not truck driver. Your job is shipping supervisor. And it's your job to either go out and find the trucks yourself or engage the services of a broker to find trucks for you. Okay? Now, we've all been in corporate places, okay? And when there's people in cubicles whose job it is to get freight moved, their every move is going to be tracked and traced and checked and counted, and they're going to look out the window and be like, okay, well, here's the load to truck ratio, and here's what loads have been moving for. Here's what the rates should be. And a broker comes and says, "Well, listen, I've got a truck over here. They're going to do it for $5 a mile." Okay, but according to the DAT website, van rates in this area are $1.86. Well, this guy's got to have $5, and then going to turn around and pay that truck $1.86. You got to, and this is something Anik taught me. When a customer comes to her to move a load, she says, "Okay, here's the rate I'm paying the truck, and here's my commission on top." They know what the truck's getting paid, but y'all sit around the horseshoe of knowledge at the truck stop, and lie to each other's faces and keep promoting this nonsense. And then, of course, you'll use some weird example. Has there been some ignorant truck driver that don't know how to negotiate a rate got taken by a broker somewhere sometime? Sure, there has. You know whose fault that was? The guy that took the rate. That was his fault. So I've just got a question. Can we question things? Can we ask, maybe, is that really true? If a guy comes to you and says, "Well, I know that they took 50% of the rate from me," I don't think I'd have told that. I can't imagine bragging about being, hey, look at me, I'm a terrible negotiator. What if they're just lying to you? What if they're just lying to you and telling you something that fits your pre-existing bias? And because someone walked up to you and said something to you that sounds true, and you went, "Oh, well, gosh, I believe this, and somebody just lied to my face and told me, and so I guess I'm gonna believe it. It has to be true." But by every metric that has ever existed, the average broker compensation is 15%, because the customers are not going to let them get away with that. You wouldn't if you were a shipping supervisor. You wouldn't if you were ordering on Amazon or you were ordering from some website and they said it's going to cost X number of dollars to ship something. But of course, we're so spoiled rotten in this country that we expect everything to be free. Oh, free shipping, free shipping, free shipping. I have now seen customers write checks for $20,000 and $30,000 to move one load. You don't reckon they're watching real close to see who's getting how much of that $20,000 and $30,000 load? You don't think people that are moving hundreds of thousands of loads every day are not counting every penny? Yo, it's illogical. We have to learn to use some critical thinking. Now, one of the big reasons that our fleet is leased to Landstar, back up. The reason that I came to Landstar in the beginning was because I don't have to worry about that stuff. Yeah, I exchange a portion of the revenue for a bunch of risk protection. I don't have to factor loads. I don't have to worry about quick pay. I don't have to live on credit, because if we scan the paperwork, we get paid. Matter of fact, I want to call the bill. I meant to do this today and I forgot. I want to call the billing department. Okay. Because let's say when we were doing vans, let's say it was 25%. It's probably less than that, but let's just, for sake of argument, say that 25% of the loads that we hauled were third party brokered loads, not Landstar direct customers. I've seen a bunch of rate cons that say, "Oh, if you're late, if you don't do this, you do that, it's a $200 fine or $500 fine." And I got to thinking, man, in all of these years, I have not one time, not once, ever had a load be corrected months or years later. "Oh, well, they came back and the broker fined you $200 for such and such." It's never happened. It's also never happened. Not one time. I've been pulling loads at Landstar since 2014. Okay. Not one time has Landstar said, hey, you know what? We didn't get paid by this customer on this load you did, so we're going to take that money back from you. Not one time. It's never happened. Now, have there been incremental adjustments in fuel surcharge versus line haul here, $5, $10, $50? Yeah, sure there have. There's been little changes, but not one time have we ever hauled a load and didn't get paid for it. Not one time have we ever been back charged something months or years later. Not one time has that ever happened. You reckon there's quite a bit of security being leased to a carrier, knowing that as long as I provide a legible, signed proof of delivery that I'm getting paid come Wednesday? You think that assurance has some monetary value? You think the fact that we've had 4 trucks totaled and our insurance has never gone up a penny, there's never even been a threat that that our rates were going to go up. Not one time. If we have a driver that gets disqualified, they just call me and say, "Hey man, we're going to disqualify this guy. So you go ahead and route him back and get the truck back to you." And then I just put somebody else in the truck and keep on going about my business. I don't like the fact that sometimes they've disqualified my drivers, but sometimes drivers do dumb things that gets them disqualified. When we talk about how to start a trucking business from scratch and do it safely, do it with as little risk possible. That's why I tell anyone who wants to be an owner operator, you need to start out leased to a carrier. Don't have to be Landstar. I don't care if you come to Landstar or not. Doesn't make a single bit of difference to me. Now, if you're going to come to Landstar and be a constant complainer and a whiny pain in the ass, I don't want you here, especially because I don't want the possibility that you're going to take your nasty attitude into one of the customers and cause me a problem. So there's a bunch of you I would rather not come to Landstar. So, well, you must be a yes man recruiting for Landstar. No. There's a bunch of you I want to stay far, far away from Landstar. But if you want to learn how to run a trucking business and have an environment where there's very low risk that you can make the mistakes that you're going to make. Notice I said the mistakes you're going to make. When you move from being an employee and you've never been in business, you've never run a payroll, you've never done a P&L, you're going to make errors. Now, I know that all of you truck drivers that are pure as the driven snow and have that axis of the universe running through the top of your head, you believe that well, just owning a truck's just easy. It's not. It's not easy. It's harder than being an employee. And then you think, oh, well, I'm never going to make a mistake. Oh, you will. Oh, buddy, will you? You're going to make big mistakes. You're going to make planning errors. You're going to make routing errors. You're going to make errors with your maintenance. Bunch of you couldn't tell the difference between a hubcap and a radiator cap. And then you're shocked when something bad happens to your truck. Well, let me tell you, by a show of hands, truck operators. Okay. I've got a question for anybody that's ever operated a truck. All right. I want you to answer this question. How many times has your truck notified you, hey, listen, today is September 5th. On September 19th at 13:01 p.m., I'm going to blow a clutch. I'm going to blow a tire. Just want you to be prepared. Knock sensor's going to go bad. DPF's going to get plugged up. Or we're just going to have a ghost code that's going to put you on the shoulder and you're going to miss your appointment because we're sitting on the shoulder doing a regen. Just wanted to let you know ahead of time so you can plan for it. How many times does that happen? That's right. That's never happened. Not one time has a truck ever notified me ahead of time when it's going to break. and I've had new trucks break, and I've had old trucks break. And guess what? I've had drivers break trucks. Wasn't the truck's fault. The age of the truck didn't matter. The miles on the truck didn't matter. But when that driver broke it, guess what? It was broke. He also did not notify me ahead of time. Hey, man, I'm going to sling this drive shaft out on I-80, and then I'm going to stop in the slow lane. That happened. So to get into business and think you're never going to have problems, oh, honey, you ain't had problems yet. You have not experienced problems until it's you that has to make the call. Just blew a turbo at 2 a.m. No warning. Better figure it out. What are you going to do at 2 o'clock in the morning when the turbo blows? Oh, off to the shoulder we go. Who am I going to call? Well, like I said last night on the on the live, at this point in my life, having operated trucks now for 15 years, I would rather post a big U.S. map on my wall, chug a fifth of Jack Daniels, put on a blindfold, and then start throwing darts at the wall rather than go to a dealership. So what are you going to do? Who are you going to call? Well, if I blow a tire, I know who I'm going to call. I'm going to call LCAP. Hey, LCAP, I need an authorization number for a tire. Oh, okay. Here's your authorization number. Okay, then I'm going to call the person that has national account. I'm going to say, hey, I need you to go out here and fix this tire. And then LCAP's going to pay for it. And they're going to pull it out of my settlement, $300 a week until it's paid for. They're going to cover the road call. They're going to cover the mud flap. I don't have to come out of my pocket for that. I just make a phone call. So I get the tire at probably 60% of what I would have to pay if I was out on my own, because I get it through national account. And I don't even have to come out of my pocket. All I have to do is call the place and say, hey, here's my national account authorization number that I got from Landstar. Go fix the truck. But who's going to pay that tow bill? I have paid $2,800 to tow a truck 10 miles. Who's going to pay for that? Oh, well, I don't have any savings. I've got a warranty. What are you going to do? How are you going to get through the problems that are coming? But they just wander through life. Everything's going to be fine. It's not. It's not going to be fine. I don't say all of that to scare you out of getting into business, because I want you to get into business if you really, really want to be in business. But every time that we have a driver interview, someone that is interested in coming to work for us to do the program, the first question is, why do you want to be in business? Okay. I turned a really nice guy down a couple of weeks ago, had 2 separate interviews with him. And all he could tell me is, well, listen, I'm a good truck driver. I like driving trucks. I said, okay, that's fine. But why do you want to be in business? Well, I'm just a good truck driver. Sorry, brother, that's not good enough. I can't accept you into the program when you don't have any concept of clue what you're getting into and why you're getting into it. You cannot buy a truck and start a business because you want a better job. That is a horrible plan that will absolutely bring destruction on your life. You have to get into business because you want to build something. You want to build something over time that will grow into an appreciating asset. Not just be a better truck driver that drives a shiny truck. Nobody that matters, again, nobody that matters cares what your truck looks like. Nobody that matters cares what year your truck is. Nobody that matters cares if it's a Peterbilt versus a Volvo versus a Freightliner versus a Kenworth. Nobody cares that matters. Nobody that matters cares whether you have an automatic or a manual. But yet I see these truck drivers all the time, busting on somebody, "Oh, flip-flop, automatic." Listen, man, the last truck I drove was an automatic, and I kinda dug it. Now, I don't like the fact that that transmission costs $9,000 to replace when I can buy a 13-speed for 3,500. I don't like that it costs $6,500 to replace that clutch and actuator. I'm not a big fan of that. But after 25 some years of driving, it is kinda nice not have to push the clutch. It's a better experience. But we don't get into business for the experience. We get into business to take on that challenge. That's what motivated me to go from company driver to owner operator, because I kept banging my head into the ceiling no matter how hard I worked, no matter how diligent I was, no matter what I tried to do at every place I was at. I kept banging my head into that ceiling, and I went, "Give me the opportunity. Give me the ball, coach. Let me see if I can go run a touchdown." Well, the math proved out that to be true. I made more money as an owner operator than I did as a company driver. Problem was, I didn't save any of it. So guess what happened? When the engine broke for the second time in 14 months, I was out of business. It was over. And then I had to look back and say, well, is there anything that I could have done different? Yes. Yes, there was 2 things that I could have done different. I could have worked more and spent less. You have to get paid. I had this conversation with the BCO the other day. "Well, man, we've only paid ourselves so much in this time." Okay, well, stop. You have to pay yourself reasonable. You have to pay yourself a reasonable salary, both to satisfy the KGB, I mean, the IRS. You have to pay yourself a reasonable salary, but you also have to make sure that you're living. Okay. And then your savings has to be second. I'm sure there's people that say the savings has to be first, and probably is. But I see y'all out there with your boats and your ski-doos and your Harleys and your cruises. Well, I mean, I've got to have time for me. No, you don't. If you want to have time for you, don't start a business. A business will eventually build up a foundation that will allow you to do all kinds of really cool things. Go on cruises and have Harleys and boats and ski-doos. But not in the first 3 to 5 years. In the first 3 to 5 years, you need to get off your butt and go to work. Because again, the truck is not going to light up on the dash and say, "Hey, you better work really hard for the next 2 weeks, because on that 3rd week, I'm going to blow a drive line and do $7,000 worth of damage to your suspension. So go ahead and prepare for that." Have y'all ever seen what happens when a U-joint lets go at 70 miles an hour? It is an impressive amount of destruction when that drive shaft is no longer connected to the differential, and it just starts banging and taking out everything in its path. It takes out ABS modules and wiring harnesses and airbags and shocks, and it looks like a bomb went off in between your frame rails. And you're at that point, you're at the mercy of wherever you are. You're going to have to tow it to somewhere, and you hope that you find somebody good that's going to do a good job putting your truck back together. It happened to one of our guys. Rear differential let loose, or rear, the short shaft between the 2 axles. U-joint came apart. I don't know if it was the yoke or the U-joint. One of them broke, and it destroyed everything back there. It was but including the tow bill, it was a $5,000 or $6,000 event. Y'all, that happens to 2023s as much as it happens to 2003s. So how are you going to prepare yourself for the things that are coming when you don't know when they're coming? You better work while you can. The first 3 years, let's see, 2011, 2012, 2013. The first 3.5 years in my walking down this path, I was out 6 to 8 weeks at a time with a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old at home. Now, we saved up money and we went to Disney, right? Um, that was that was a $6,000 event. But I knew my only option was to stay in the truck moving in order to achieve the goal, which for us, for our family, was to be a single income family. And I didn't have an option when the kids were sick to say, okay, well, I'm coming home. She just had to deal with it. Y'all, listen, I know that there's been a generational shift. Okay. My dad, my wife's father, my grandfathers, all the guys from that, the boomers, knew how to do a little bit of everything. Okay. They could do electrical. They could work on their car. They could change their oil. They could change spark plugs. They could change an alternator. They could do stuff like that. Right. So that's what I grew up in. So I knew what an alternator was and I knew what it did. And I could even open the hood on a big truck and go, oh, well, that's the alternator. And I get that there's been a shift that your average person doesn't have the immediate access to those kinds of things. But y'all, we have all the world's known information literally in our pocket. Go get on YouTube. Bendix has a great video. I'm gonna look it up and show it to you. Bendix. Well, I'm gonna go to YouTube first. YouTube. Bendix air brake systems. Okay. Here it is. Second, bring this up on the screen. No, there it goes.
States, navigating on busy city
Right, this Bendix
expressways, or transporting the most valuable cargo of all,
6 minutes long.
begins to reverse its travel.
Y'all, it
As
goes
the
through the whole
piston
air
begins
system.
its compression stroke, the
You
inlet
could
valve
watch this
closes,
video
and the air in the cylinder bore is
and
compressed as the
understand
piston approaches
how
top
and why
dead center.
your brake system works the way that it does.
During air compression, the discharge valve
It's right
opens,
there.
allowing compressed air to flow from the cylinder bore past the open valve and out the
If
discharge port
you want
into
to
the
learn.
supply
Okay,
reservoir.
let's go back to it and let's
Returning
go,
to our full cutaway view of the compressor, we find
let's
that
go
since the
tractor,
compressor contains 2 cylinders
learn how to spell
and the
it.
crankshaft has
Tractor,
180-degree
trailer,
opposed
wheel seal.
journals, one piston
Placement.
will be on its intake.
Look at all these videos where they will go into detail and show you what it looks like, how to replace a wheel seal. If you really want to be shocked, I can tell you right now, with no question, no hesitation, with some Harbor Freight tools, I could change a wheel seal in a truck stop parking lot. Mute the video. Oh, I didn't know it was unmuted. Oops. Okay. Well, I killed it. Sorry. I didn't realize it was playing. I don't have headphones on. So the information is out there for you to learn at least the vocabulary, right? what there's this my new favorite TikTok account is some Latvian dude that lives in Ghana, West Africa. So he's got this very thick Russian accent, and he has a diesel shop, okay, and he's got all these little African dudes working for him, and he's a teacher, and he's teaching these people. And I guess in Ghana, it must be very dusty because people come in with problems with the turbo, and he was like, "You don't have problem with turbo. You have plugged air filter." And he explains why your turbo's not working because either your intercooler's plugged up or your air filter's clogged. I had a shop try to get me to spend $10,000 on a truck when all it was a plugged up fuel filter. So the reason that I was able to see that is I had taken the time to learn enough about how the system worked to go, you know what you're telling me doesn't make any sense. And that's why I said, no, we're not going to do this. And it turned out to be a fuel filter. So while I could understand that, like back in the 90s and early 2000s, the only way that I could have known the things about mechanics that I do now would have actually been to do it. Well, now I can go online and I can see experienced people. And the thing that frustrates me the most about living in 2025 is you'll have something like Bending with Bending on TikTok. We'll talk about how you do not put grease in oil bath hubs. If you open the ConMet paperwork of the people that manufacture the oil bath hub, it says do not put grease in an oil bath hub because it can lead to premature failure. And the whole comment section was filled with, oh my God, I put grease in them. I don't care. Okay, well, I wish you the best of luck. But when someone like Rocky gives me advice based on his decades of experience, and I'm able to logically go through that, and I go, well, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. Then I'm going to do it that way, and I'm going to throw away my way. I think the biggest part of the problem is we get a hold of a piece of information, and then we want to own it and like it's a baby and never let go of it. Y'all, there's lots of stuff that I believed 10 years ago that I no longer believe because I got new information. And when I got new information, I took the old thing and I threw it away. Say it again for the hot shot guys. The hot shot thing, I did it in 1999. I would never do it again. There's some sort of novelty about that. Like I've got a pickup truck and I'm going to go haul freight. Well, I think it's probably appropriate in some very, very, very niche places. But y'all, I could literally buy 5 Freightliners for what one F-350 costs. And the rates aren't any better than what we get with a big truck. And back in those days when we did it, the DOT didn't pay any attention to us. Like there were lots of people running around doing hotshot stuff with no CDL. It was the Wild West. But dude, in 1999, we were getting $1 and $1.10 and $1.15 a mile for a 48-foot flatbed. And we put 105,000 miles on a 3,500 Dodge pickup truck that went through 3 transmissions. I mean, it was just the whole thing was insane. So if I wanted to haul freight and I wanted it to be like that niche, local, lightweight stuff, brother, I'm gonna go get me a $10,000 Freightliner and have a bed in the like a real sleeper. And instead of paying 70, 80, 90,000 dollars for a pickup truck this is gonna hurt your feelings. Those things were not built to haul freight. That's not what they're for. Now, maybe if we could go back to the days of having, 7.3 Power Strokes and early Duramaxes that were not choked down with emissions. But my gosh, these new trucks are overpriced junk. Anyway, got off on a tangent. We have got to stop believing this fairy tale that the government is going to do anything to help you as an individual. At red or blue, doesn't matter. I want them to have absolutely nothing to do with the freight market. Nothing. I don't want them setting minimum rates. I don't want them setting caps on anybody. Because if which I know American history is not allowed to be taught anymore, but y'all, we've got 250 years of precedent. And if you look at 250 years of precedent, when you give the government the power to do something to somebody else, it's going to be done to you. That's how that works. They don't do that for your benefit. The only reason they're going to do anything is if them and their buddies benefit. So we have two people that have popped up in last week. One is a guy named Vincent Fazio. I saw him in the TikTok comments a minute ago. The difference between Vincent that I've seen, I haven't talked to him yet. I'd like to. The difference I'm seeing between Vincent and this clown that wants the $5 a mile, Vincent is at least showing me that he's curious and he's asking questions. This other guy, he doesn't have any questions to ask. He just makes demands, and he is exploiting ignorant people to enrich himself. That's what he's doing. He's not your friend. He's not ever going to do anything to help you. He's going to get as much out of you as he can, and then one day he's going to disappear. Just like that other guy that was said 1,000 trucks were coming to Washington and 4 showed up and he wasn't one of them. So those people that start whispering in your ear and telling you how they're going to be your savior and they're going to go fight for you, you better watch out. You better watch out. Now, look, I get from 5 years old until adulthood, we are raised with the belief that the U.S. government is the greatest and most noble and wonderful force on earth. It's not. It's clearly not. And it has magical special powers that if you'll just cross your heart, and that it'll rain those blessings down from Washington. Why we still believe that is beyond me. Yeah, Rick Santiago was the other one. All these guys, I think, I'm sure there's some of them that mean well, but it's a fairy tale. And I stopped believing in fairy tales and Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny when I was a little kid. And the fact that we have people right now and did. I mean, let's look at the last 5 years that believe that somehow the government's just gonna magically make your life better. That's insane. And it violates all principles of economics. Again, let's go back to the fact that the currency has almost been doubled, and now, we're paying what we're paying for groceries and stuff, and then y'all wanna double the freight rates for yourself. That's selfishness and narcissism. Nothing good ever comes from that. Y'all, I've been in the trucking industry almost 30 years, and I like it. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't be in it. Does it come with challenges? Certainly. Certainly it comes with challenges. But life comes with challenges, and for whatever reason we've gotten to this place where we think that anytime we encounter some sort of difficulty that somebody's got to come and fix it. So, Rocky has been talking to this Vince Fazio guy to tell him to be careful because they are going to try to drag him into their fantasy land. Why don't you go find somebody that's been in business for at least 5 years and talk to them? Stop listening to truck drivers that have 1 to 2 years of experience, don't have any concept or clue how anything works, but they want to fix it. Well, how can you fix something when you don't even know how it actually operates? It's a business that you truly get manipulated in. It's any business you can get manipulated in. It's not just trucking. You can get manipulated in anything. Guess whose fault that is? If you get manipulated, it's your fault. And do we honestly think that the FMCSA, the DOT, and the executive branch of the government is going to stop you from getting manipulated? I mean, I've had people try, and I went, no thanks, and moved on with my life. The I say they try to use truckers to fill their agenda. Who? I mean, that's the that's the big problem with the word they is who's they? Who's they? What power do they have, and how are they going to do it? Right? We have taken, and our family have taken a very different path. Right? Um, we have been engaged in business since 2010. Our kids are homeschooled. And I just see such a difference. I mean, I went, we had lunch today, and there was, 1, 2, 3, 4, there was like 6 homeschooled kids of all different ages sitting at the table. And it's just a wildly different experience than if you were sitting around 6 or 7 kids from government schools. It's a whole different attitude, whole different way of looking at the world. So when I see people trying to scam somebody, for me, it's like, ooh, well, let me just stay away from that person. But it has no effect on me. The whole thing in 2020 that happened, we just didn't participate. We just went on about our lives with no hesitation. Um, Nothing changed for us. Why? Oh, there's a good question. Tyson Lawrence. Why is there the perception that trucking and brokering is such an easy business? I don't know, because when I went into trucking in 97, I still personally saw it as a kind of a noble profession. I saw it as something that was difficult. Maybe maybe just because trucking has become an, well, I don't have anything better to do. I'll go drive a truck, right? That there's some kind of perception. But there's another good point, Matt, because a lot of truckers couldn't read or write. I wish I could find, there was this TV movie when I was a kid. And I wish, oh gosh, I wish I could find it, because obviously as a little kid, I was fascinated with trucks. My uncle drove a truck. First truck I ever sat in was a 1985 Mack cab over, and I was just mesmerized. But I grew up on Smokey and the Bandit too, right? I mean, Smokey and the Bandit came out when I was a year old. But there was this TV movie, and it was one of these, it was like an after school special kind of deal, and they were trying to make you understand how important it was for you to learn how to read. Well, anyway, in somewhere in this story was a grown man that didn't know how to read, but he knew how to drive a truck. And so I remember vaguely, very clearly, this scene in this truck where his wife would write down for him the roads that he had to take, or the exits. Okay. So he's got a piece of paper and he's driving a cab over, because this was in the 80s. And he's driving a cab over and he's got this word written out, okay, for the exit. And he's taking a pen while he's driving. He's taking a pen and he's looking up the sign, looking down at the paper. He circles the first letter and match that up, and the second letter and the third letter and the fourth letter. Well, by this time, he's already traveled so far, and he hits the brake and he crashes. And it's oh, well, this terrible crash happened because he didn't know how to read. Okay. Thought exercise for y'all. We're told that the reason people got into trucking is because they couldn't read or write English. Some of y'all will get that. Okay, I don't know what this guy's saying. You don't even realize it's affecting you. What are you trying to sell? Brother, if you can't listen to the content and the conversation that we're having here, you probably should just move along. Go ahead and move along. And if you keep going, I'm probably going to move you along. Do you think that 2025 we should be paid $1.50? I'm not paid $1.50. My average rate per mile for 2025 is $3.72. So I'm not making about $1.50. My cost is $1.70. How do you feel about Kevin Rutherford? We're friends with Kevin Rutherford. Actually, this company exists because of Kevin Rutherford. When Larry Long, the original owner of Blue Ribbon, who was a retired professional photographer, got into trucking, found Kevin's radio show when it was on at midnight, and Larry drove overnight running FedEx. He was a 55-year-old entrepreneur that retired and didn't have anything better to do. And so he ended up driving a truck, and he found Kevin. And what he found was a community. I mean, Kevin's obviously the face of it. But when he started going to the CMC every year, and he started talking to all these one percenters, people from Mercer, people from Landstar, people with their own authority, that were all getting together and testing new products and trying things out. But what they were doing is they were sharing all of their best practices. And Blue Ribbon is literally built on the shoulders of those principles that Larry learned from Kevin and all of those people that were associated with him. So what are we selling? Nothing. Nothing. What we're doing is giving our experience, the knowledge that we've gained over experience. We're giving that to people, and hopefully, Zig Ziglar has a great line that said, I hope to God y'all know who Zig Ziglar was. Zig Ziglar said, you cannot change someone's mind. Zig was a sales trainer and motivational speaker. You cannot change someone's mind. He was talking about closing the sale. Okay, he sold pots and pans door to door, or whatever it was, right? If you don't know who Zig Ziglar, just go to YouTube, just look up Zig Ziglar. He talks like a Southern Baptist minister, but buddy, he'll get you fired up, right? He said you cannot change someone's mind. You can, however, give them information with which to make a different decision. That's what we're doing here. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm trying to give you information with which maybe you'll pause and go, well, maybe I should consider that. And that's why I tell people that are interested in being owner operators, do not go get your own authority until you have been in business a couple, 3 years. Go lease to a carrier, Norster, Landstar, Help, Schneider, or one of the 500,000 companies that nobody's ever heard of. I said this last night. If you're a company driver and maybe you want to find a better company to work for, understand that all of the mega carriers added up together make up about 8% of the trucks on the road. That means that 90 to 92% of the trucks on the road are operated by carriers with 10 trucks or less. So if 93% of the trucks on the road are being operated by either A, owner operators, or B, small carriers, which was a result of the Motor Carrier Act of 1980, by the way, there's probably some pretty good jobs with some pretty good people. How can you find them? Buckle up, Buttercup. Call a broker. Hey, man, my name's Bob, and I'm a CDL driver. Been driving for a couple years. I got a clean record. I'm looking for a really good small carrier to work for in Texas. Do you know anybody? You know who in all of this market is going to know who the good carriers are and the bad carriers are? Brokers. Brokers can tell you who the good carriers are. And they can tell you who the people are to stay away from. Like the Chicago mob bunch. Right? We don't work for those people. I have a litmus test that I offer out to people that want to drive for a BCO at Landstar. Okay, well, you can't just drive for just anybody at Landstar. I only have so many trucks, and so you know a lot of people that ask me that question can't come to work for me because I don't have the capacity. There's 4 rules. If you want to work for a BCO at Landstar, number 1, if they don't offer you a driver contract, you don't have a deal. Number 2, if they won't pay you on a W-2 and they want to pay you on a 1099, no deal. Number 3, they must have a legitimate business, like an LLC with set up with an S corp. They must have a real business that pays you on a W-2 direct deposit. And number 4, full transparency. If they won't let you see every freight bill, no deal. If you'll take those 4 things into consideration and you want to work for a BCO and they will pay you on a W-2, they have an actual legitimate real business, they'll give you full transparency and they'll issue you a driver contract that you both sign, go ahead and work for them. But if any one of those doesn't happen, no thank you, no deal. I'll go find somebody else to drive for. that small carrier can't pay me 69 cents a mile plus extra pay that equals up to 89 cents a mile. Why? Why do you believe that? What I mean, what are you basing that on? How many people have you talked to? How many conversations have you had? How many phone calls have you made that says they can't pay you 69 cents a mile or 89 cents a mile or hell, $1 a mile? What's a BCO? Business Capacity Owner. That's Landstar's fancy name for owner operators. Just so you know, I decided to not hire my first driver because I was going to pay on a 1099. Well, good, trucker Brent. Glad to know we're making a difference. I had a conversation with a guy, potential a potential hire for the program, and he mentioned working for a very large company, very large corporation, and they paid well, but he thought they should have paid more. And he said, "Well, man, I'm just tired of being micromanaged." And I said, "Well, brother, do I have some disappointing news for you?" Most people that become owner operators fail because they can't micromanage themselves. You hear me? When they don't have the dispatcher, the load planner cracking the whip on them and setting accountability for them, they don't work. I have watched it over and over and over again. You have to make yourself accountable to yourself. And that comes with knowing your numbers. I know my numbers. It's $1.70. I know that our fuel cost for the year averages about 47 cents a mile because I track it every single week. Every week I do a fuel mileage report and a report off of our settlement. Every Wednesday I release a report to our company that shows all the drivers lined up from number 1 to number 7. And they get to see. And sometimes they get to see a big negative number out there beside their name because the truck didn't make any money that week. Now, it could have been because they were off. Could have been something out of their control. But what if it was something in their control? What if they could have planned better? What if they could have routed better? What if they could have communicated better? Again, the truck we have not developed trucks yet that will say, hey, Thursday after next, I'm going to blow a wheel seal and set the truck on fire. Just so you know, go ahead and put that in your calendar. Bobby the Kid, how much should I make per mile as a team driver, independent contractor, 1099? 0. That's how much you should make on a 1099. 0. Because we don't work as employees for people paying 1099s because we don't work for crooks and thieves. So that's how much you should make. 0. Y'all, there's 500,000 companies in this country. We focus on this 10% that Swift, Schneider, JB Hunt, Knight, they are not the example of how to operate a truck. They run on a 2% margin. If you don't know what that means, if they bring in $1, they spend 98 cents of it. That's what an operating ratio is. You cannot be an owner operator and run on a 2% margin. It does not work. I get that everybody comes through the front door and they think, oh, well, this is how you do trucking because these are the people that that trained me. That's not normal. What is normal is people buying reasonably priced used trucks. Now, I don't think you should go in debt to buy a truck. Okay? Most of you are going to ignore that because this is America and you're all broke and don't have any money. But you could find a truck that's $1,200 to $1,500 a month for like 3 years, put some cash down, have a big pile of cash sitting there for the breakdown that's coming next week. But only in trucking, for some reason, do we believe that people can take on the venture of going into business and not have any money, not have any savings. There's no other business that you're going to go into for zero down. And then not be shocked 6 weeks later when some $4,000, $5,000 event happens. You go, well, I don't have any money. Must be the broker's fault. No, it's your fault. You started a business with a bad business plan, and then you're shocked when it all went bad. And then you start blaming everybody on the planet but yourself. We don't book loads on rate per mile. We book on revenue per day. Now we track everything on cost per mile, and we break it all down, but we track everything. Y'all, I can go into a folder right now. I'm going to pull this up on my computer. Oops. I'm going to click on this folder, and I'm going to go to this folder, and I'm going to go to this folder. I have every invoice. We put a truck on the road. Well, technically, we put it on the road in 2019. I did not begin this tracking until 2020. Okay. But here in front of me is an invoice from March 26th of 2020. We spent $584.41 on a truck that's still in our fleet, replaced the fuel sending unit, also checked out some lights and mirrors and load light connectors on the ABS module. Thanks, Carl. Oh, our good buddy Carl. I still have that invoice from 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago. And it's dated 3.26.20 TA. Because if it isn't written down, and all God's people said, it didn't happen. Oh, looky here. Oops. Uh-oh. Big Daddy's in the house. Emergencies cease to be emergencies when you have the capital to overcome them. Y'all, in April of 2017, when my truck blew up, there's one or two things that could have happened. I pick up the phones and I call the house and I say, man, this motor just blew up again. I'm going to rent a car and come home. They'll have it fixed in a week or so. And then they would have called me, and it probably would have been, now that I know what actually happened, it'd have probably been a $5,000 or $6,000 repair. And I just wrote a check for it and went back to work. But that's not what happened, did it? No, that's not what happened. I got on the phone with a Swift recruiter in tears, explaining to them that I now needed a job because my truck was broke. And I sold it for $5,000 on Facebook Marketplace to some Hispanic dude that fixed it and is probably still driving it today. Does your employee make money that week if his truck lost money? Yes. That's the thing about truck drivers. Y'all always get paid. Y'all always get paid. The owner don't get paid, right? So again, think about you. If this was just a fleet and there was no program, my accounting would take 20 minutes. I'd take all the expenses, plug them into QuickBooks. I'd take all the revenue, plug it into QuickBooks, done. But I do individual accounting on each truck as if that person were the owner operator, so I can show them, okay, if this was your truck this week, this is how much you would have made. This is how much your payroll cost was, and this is what your fuel cost was and your fixed expenses. And then over here's your profit. Here's what you would have made. And then I do one for the month, and then I do one for the quarter. But y'all truck drivers, you employed truck drivers got to understand y'all always get paid. And that's, you know, QuickBooks. Whew, QuickBooks. Last week had a little glitch. Oopsie. We had a glitch. I get up Friday morning. I open the old bank app and I'm like, where's my money? There's no money. I start texting some other people. I'm like, hey, did you get paid? Because I didn't get paid. And they're like, nope, we didn't get paid. And I called the bank and the bank's like, nope, we don't see anything. And at 10:38, to be exact, at 10:38 Friday morning, long after the money should have been in the account, QuickBooks sends us an email. Oopsie, we had a glitch. It's all good now. Your people will be paid by this afternoon. And they, to their credit, everybody got paid. That's a huge responsibility, y'all. When you take on an employee, it is a big responsibility. Them being able, their wife or their spouse that's at home with the kids while they're out driving your truck, their ability to keep the lights on and buy groceries is whether or not you put money in their bank. And so if you do a terrible job running your business, well, that's your fault. And if those people don't have food to eat, that's also your fault. You can blame the brokers until you pass out. Y'all remember Titanic? You know, and the ship's going down and they got that one scene of old captain just standing there waiting because he was going down with the ship. You are the captain. And when your ship sinks, nobody to blame but you. Trucker Brent asks, do you have employees that graduate and become successful owner-operators? We have one. And he's hanging by a thread. I'm going to bust his ass. We have watched people leave the program and go do their own thing. And immediately when they were out from under the expectations and the accountability, decided, now one of them was truthful. He came and he said, I have not done a good job. I have not worked as much as I should have worked. I let things go and he no longer is in business. And then there's a couple of others that, you know, either graduates or BCO mentoring clients that made fatal mistakes, and not literally, but for their business. And it's sad that I've watched it happen. And so when I see these people trying to act like business is some kind of cakewalk, walk in the park, oh, everything's great. You know, Sean Whitwood, or the guy that drives for you that he has to pay his child support or he loses his license. Yeah. See, that's another reason that people want to put you on 1099s. Number one, they don't have to set up payroll taxes. Blake's wife, Erica, is a wonderful, sweet person, but she hates these different states. You know, I mean, you just watch her whole countenance change when that just at the idea of having to get set up in a new state. It's one thing if you have a business all in one state, but when you got truck drivers flung out all over the country and you've got to set up with each of these states, and they're super easy to deal with. And then when you got them on a W or on a 1099 and the garnishment people and the child support people start coming, they, you know, when they're on W-2, they're going to come find you. you know? And boy, if we had some experiences with that, where they call up and they say, we want his check. We're like, no, you can't have his check. Can't have the whole thing. You know, that's stuff you have to deal with when you're in business and you have employees. And it's not fun. Oh, well, let me just stick them on a 1099. I'll get them to pay my portion of their taxes, and I won't have to deal with their child support payments and their garnishments and, judgments and all that stuff. I won't have to deal with that because they're a contractor. Let's see. Looking through comments, see if there's anything I missed. I hear thunder in the distance, and it is getting ready to absolutely pour the rain here at my house. Blue Ribbon reminds me of PBR. Is this where the name came from? No. Larry was a professional photographer for 30 years. And Blue Ribbons was how he won. He won Blue Ribbons in photography competitions, and they also had show dogs. They were big into golden retrievers, and you would get a blue ribbon. So a blue ribbon in his world was a sign of excellence. That when you did something really well, you got a blue ribbon, and so that's why he named it Blue Ribbon. We need brokers cap. No, we don't. No, we don't. Who's going to cap you? What are you going to do when they cap you? I want y'all to think about this. How mad does it make you when someone devalues you as a truck driver? Oh, a truck driver ain't nothing. They just sit and stare at a windshield, and they're not very smart, and they probably can't read, don't have any education, they couldn't do anything better than drive a truck. How's that feel? Sucks, don't it? So how do you think it feels to someone who is really good at their craft and dedicated themselves to building a great business as a broker, and then you have some truck driver come along, oh, just a bunch of thieves, If you don't like it done to you, don't do it to somebody else. Because whatever you allow the state to do to someone else will someday be done to you. This morning, a load was posted at 3,000 since they didn't cover. Now it's 4,800. Yeah. Yeah. My very first day at Landstar, literally day one, March 14th of 2014. I'm sitting in orientation. I've just gotten my log into the board. And so, of course, I'm playing around on the load board. I'm not listening to Al Jordan, Esquire, right? I'm playing with the board. Okay. And I see this load posted, and it's 2,000. I looked at it later. It was 2,200. And I looked at it later. It was 2,300. Okay. And I made a terrible mistake in that day. I assumed what was happening. Now, my 8th grade science teacher told me what happens when you assume. Everybody know what happens when you assume? You make an ass out of you and me. And so I asked Al Jordan, I said, hey, man, I've watched this load go up from, 2,000 to 2,200 to 2,300. So what do they just put the rate down and then they move it up? And he said, no, that's not how it works at Landstar. And so he comes over and he looks at it. He says, no, I know that agent and I know that customer. And so either A, the agent is having to pull out of their pocket to put more money in the load because, again, let's put ourselves in that situation. You sign a contract with a direct shipper that you're going to move this load for $2,000, and the phone don't ring, and the phone's not ringing, still not ringing. You're calling BCOs, hey, you want to come do this load for $2,000? No, I don't. Well, what about 2,100? What about 2,150? What about 2,200? What about 2,300? Okay. What? And the customer says, well, we told you, you said you were going to do it for 2,000. So the agent has either got to come out of their pocket or Landstar steps in and Landstar offers to throw money on top of it. Right? Everybody at Landstar's paid off of the same freight bill. The agents paid off the same freight bill that I am. The tractor's paid off the same freight bill the agent's paid off of. The trailer is paid off of the same freight bill that the tractor is. The truck gets 65, the trailer gets 8 to 10, the agent gets their 7, 8, 9%, whatever it is. We're all paid off the same freight bill. Now, here's one of my favorites. That's a lie. Okay, well, Leo 855, why don't you explain to me what I said is a lie? Now, keep in mind, I've been at Landstar a decade. And if you're not at Landstar and you haven't been here a decade, you cannot say that what I'm saying is a lie because you don't have the knowledge based on experience to back it up. But it's easy to just say, oh, it's a lie. Well, your life's going to be a lot more peaceful if you will find people that have experience at a thing. I've been at Landstar for 10 years. I haven't seen it all yet, but I've seen a bunch of it. I know how the system works. Exactly. And I know what happens when the market shifts. Something changes. So there's some different variable, and somebody's got to come out of their pocket to cover that load because it's got to get covered. How much can team drivers make working for a company? Both drivers have, I mean, whatever you want to make. I mean, what are you, what is your value to the customer? I know teams at Landstar that are making $500,000 a year. That's how they pay for those trucks that have $120,000 sleepers on them. What if we use AI for load matching based on location of the truck? That's coming. Blockchain's also coming, y'all. That's coming. We're not there yet. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to buck that system when it comes, but it's coming. I know you don't pay much insurance with Landstar, but what do you think about the new rule they want to raise? Who's they? I'm not sure about who they is. I know there are people that want to raise the minimum liability requirements. But they drink the same they drink the same Kool-Aid that the people that thinks the government's going to raise the rates for them. Honestly, I can't imagine it affecting us. I called Gallagher the other day because I'm putting together a presentation to do on settlements, and our physical damage through Gallagher is based on truck value. Okay. Well, I was kind of looking for a chart. And so I downloaded the BCO resource guide that most BCOs don't know exists. I downloaded the BCO resource guide and I'm like, maybe it's in there. And it was, there's a chart. And it has 3 columns for different deductible levels, like 500, 1,000, and 2,500 or whatever. And here's what, if your truck is worth X, here's how much your physical damage payment's going to be. But I'm like, how old is this document? So I called Gallagher and I said, hey, I just found this thing in the BCO resource guide. How old is it? And she was like, well, I've been here 10 years and it's never changed. I went, oh, okay. So there it is. What's the oldest rig you can operate at Landstar? If you call them, they will say 2000. But I don't believe that's true. What is true is that your truck must be able to connect to an ELD, which means it has to have an electronic engine. So that's going to get you to about 95 or 96. Y'all, back in 2020, 21, when I would call the agents that everybody hates, like Taylor or Gwen Trucking or whoever it was, because I'm just calling on loads as they're popping up. I can't imagine. I can't count the number of times that I would call during that time and say a load was posted for 2,500, And I'd be like, "Hey, do you have this load available?" "Yeah, it pays 2,500. "Yeah, okay, let me call the customer." They'll call the broker. They'll come back, "Man, I got you 2,800." Was that fun? Oh, yes. Yes. Was it fun for me to sit in this very chair? Well, not this chair. I got a new chair. But was it fun for me to sit in the chair and run a team $25,000 a week every week? Oh, so much fun. What was it fun that I could just set my minimum on $3.50 or $4 a mile and 2 or $3,000 a day for a solo driver and just bang out 10 and 11 and $12,000 weeks every week? It was awesome. It was also unrealistic. And we knew that it wasn't going to last. So we were making hay while the sun shine, as the old saying goes. We did not take our foot off the gas when the rates were crazy. And when the rates dropped and we went from a $2,000 a day goal to a $1,450 a day goal, we did not change our level of service. You're going to get the same level of service from me or one of my trucks at $2 a mile that you get at $6 a mile. We don't play this game that, oh, your load doesn't pay enough to get good service. We don't play that. Because I know that every load is an opportunity to make a new relationship with someone to remember us by. And how do they remember us? We're the ones that communicate every step of the way. They don't have to ask us the questions. Where are you? When are you going to be there? Because we answer their questions before they ask them. Hey, my ETA to the shipper is, my ETA to the receiver is, hey, here we're empty. Thanks for the load. Here's a copy of the POD. We circled the signature of the person that signed it and wrote POD beside it so the billing department can see very easily, hey, this is the signature. This is the proof of delivery. That's what sets you apart. When we went to Kevin's CMC year before last, yeah, somebody popped up and said, how do you build relationships with brokers in the phone call? The answer is you don't. You build the relationship with brokers and agents from shipper to receiver, and how well you communicate with them and how well you take care of their customer and how well you make sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed and everything is there in a nice little package. And then you send that to them and say, hey, thank you for this opportunity to do this load. If you need somebody with good service, give me a call. A bunch of y'all are too prideful and selfish to do that because you think that everybody should be bowing down before you instead of you being the service provider, you being the thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this load. Thanks for this opportunity. I will do everything in my power to make sure your freight gets there on time and in one piece. You can be that person or not. You can be the person that, oh God, it's this guy again. But I don't have anybody else, and everybody else is just like him. You think about how easy it is in 2025 to set yourself apart from the competition by just being a good service provider, putting the needs of other people ahead of your own. Because if you can't handle, if you're thinking about getting into business, and it doesn't matter what industry, if you're thinking about buying a Subway franchise, if you cannot handle the concept that you're the last one to get paid, please do not get into business. You're the last person that matters. You're at the bottom of every rung of every ladder. You are dead last. Everybody else's wants and needs come before your own. If you can't handle that, please don't buy trucks and get into business. You will be miserable and you will make everybody you come in contact with miserable because it's not about you. It's about the customer. They're the ones that write the checks, aren't they? The broker's not writing the check. The broker's passing a check along from somebody else. So why don't you just go knock somebody's socks off with how amazing your communication is and how amazing your service is? Maybe y'all just scared. Well, I don't want to give them great service because what if they don't treat? That's not how the golden rule works. Y'all have heard the golden rule. Treat others how you'd like to be treated. Y'all ever heard that? It's a kind of an old thing, right? Especially now that we have moved over into the platform open deck world at Landstar, we don't have to rely on the board as much. We still use it, but I mean, we just got a phone call today that booked a load for September 19th. That's $8,000 for 600 miles. We didn't call looking for that load. They called us. Hey, do you have a truck for this date? Oh, we will. Tell me where and when. Y'all, if you don't hate me yet, get ready for this. Hey, carriers, the brokers are your customer. They're the people that you should be friends with, and you guys should hold hands and serve the customers together. You should go to the brokers and say, what can I do to make your life better? How can I be of service to you? Because that's what we do here at Landstar. The agents are our customers. Oh, here's another knuckle drag. Get rid of brokers. Okay. Well, who's going to get rid of you? Who you going to give the power to get rid of brokers? I don't know if y'all have noticed or not. Maybe you should pick up a history book or three. But any time in human history that the state has been given power to get rid of people, they take that real serious. And they'll get rid of them. Be careful what you wish for when you want to get rid of people. Because here's your problem, Mr. Get rid of the brokers. Okay. Overgrown leprechaun. See, here's your problem. I'm not going to work to get rid of the brokers. I'm going to work with the brokers hand in hand to go serve the needs of the market. The market's your friends and neighbors that go and buy things and need things to be shipped. I'm going to go work with the brokers hand in hand, and I'm going to make relationships with them because they're my gateway to the customer. And here at Landstar, that's the agent is our customer. They are gateway. They are our sales force. I don't have to go knock on doors. I don't have to make cold calls. I'd rather have every one of my fingernails pulled out than to make a cold call or to make a sales call or go knock on doors and beg somebody to give. I can't think of a greater hell that I could ever experience than to go be a salesman. But I've got 1,400 agents at Landstar that go out and do that work for me so that I don't have to spend a millisecond of my life trying to figure out where the load's going to come from. They do that for me. Have you ever seen Landstar's Carrier 401 report? Nope. And I don't care. Means nothing to me. Couldn't care less. Literally, if you gave me a list of 10,000 things, okay, that I'm supposed to care about, Landstar's Carrier 411 report doesn't even make the list. I could not possibly care any less. Why not be a broker? Why drive? Well, if you think that you have the temperament, the skill, the knowledge, and the ability to go be a broker, brother, have at it. There's lots of brokers out here that will show you, they'll bring you in under their wing and they'll show you the way. But I hope y'all don't think it's easy. Again, it's a job that I would not do, not because it's somehow beneath me. I don't have that skill set. I don't possess that skill set. Now, I'm super good at running a fleet of trucks. I am excellent. Well, I'm good with that. I'm content with being a high quality operator of trucks and someone that can get problems solved and make things happen. But I certainly don't have the temperament. I mean, I have resting bitch face. I'm not, you do not want me going and knocking on the door trying to get somebody to sell freight. That's not my deal. But y'all that want to get rid of the brokers and y'all that want to claim that the brokers are the problem, you're the problem. You're the one that you think you're getting scammed because you just don't understand how anything works. Larry so famously said on this show a few years back, it started a storm. The only reason y'all are so mad at brokers is because they're better at their job than you are at yours. Truckers think brokers get accounts handed to them. They don't. They have to get every single load. Yes. I mean, go watch Steve Vest. I mean, he does the cold calls. And then, I can't even imagine the agents that I'm friends with at Landstar, and they're like calling me, "Hey, I've got a load to move, and there's nobody calling," and I'm like, "Brother, if I had a truck, I'd send it to you, but I don't have anybody available." Blake says, if you get rid of the brokers, how will manufacturers get shipments to the drivers? I've never seen a good answer to that question. And it always leads to a third party, and that third party is a broker. I'd love for y'all to, I mean, everybody carries a 450 megapixel camera in their pocket everywhere with them. I'd love to see a bunch of you truck drivers crying about brokers. Well, go make the sales calls. Go knock on the doors. Go get the loads. Go get them. Have at it, brother. I would love to be along for that conversation. Just video it. Just, they got little pencil cameras, you could hide it in your shirt. Go in and I want to watch y'all. Oh, it'd be the biggest entertainment I've ever had in my life. I want to watch y'all go in and try to sell freight to people trying to move loads. That would be the most entertaining thing that I could watch in my entire life. Most truckers have zero clue that they're in a market. Listen, most Americans have no clue that they're in a market, right? When I use the term free market economics, when I say market, the market to me is my friends and neighbors, across the street or across the world. That's the market. It's each of us spontaneously. If you really step back and look at the market, it's incredible what we get done in a whole spontaneous order. Go read the book I Pencil by Henry Hazlitt. It's a really, really old book, a little short book about all of the spontaneous action that has to happen to make a pencil. All of the different people all over the world that have to do some little thing to make something that seemingly is insignificant as a pencil. And then you think about cars and boats and houses and all of the different things that have to happen. And it's all this spontaneous order that happens in spite of, not because of, the government. It's just not fair. Brokers out there anymore, 90% of them are ripping truckers off. No, they are not. That's nonsense, Rainmaker 81. It's nonsense. It sounds good and it feels good to, boy, I bet your thumbs are just erect. You know, oh, brokers. But I give you, go ahead. I gave a broker a fair rate today for a lane. I know what it's worth. He told me to go find someone cheaper. Okay, fine. Then go find somebody else. Or wait until he's desperate. But I have zero concern for anybody outside my fleet. I've got enough to worry about. What somebody else does with their life is not my problem. And what I do with my life is not their problem, nor is it any of their business. Okay, he told you to find somebody cheaper to run the lane. Then don't run the lane. If I post a RGN load, Landstar will be the first one to call me. I'll never give Landstar another load. Okay, congratulations. What do you want me to say? I'm sorry? You know, we need more education. Now, obviously, as a homeschooler, you know, for what, almost 20 years, obviously I'm not a big fan of public schools. But since I've been doing this, it's not just public or private. I hate the system of education that we have. It's not, it doesn't matter if it's the government or it's a Catholic school or Christian school or private school or a Montessori school or this kind of school. The way that humanity has decided to build an education system does not work. And it's not, I don't think it's something that you can do a top-down fix. It's a bottom-up fix. Because all of the information is there, all the historical information. There's a great story about a guy, I can't remember his name, but I did a podcast episode with him one time. Really fascinating guy. He's a literal rocket scientist. Okay. He was in the military, just a grunt, got out of the military and started working as a janitor in a high school. You can Google his story. I'm trying to think of what it's called. I wish I could think of it. But anyway, there's a little video done about him. But he loved math and he found some book in the school library while he was cleaning. And he decided, you know what, I'm going to go be whatever it was, an astrophysicist or a rocket scientist or whatever. And so he just started teaching himself. Okay. Well, he figured out in order to get into this college class thing that he wanted to get in, they said, well, you know, hey, your everything looks great, but you don't have trigonometry. And he says, well, what do I need? And they taught him, and he says, okay, well, give me a month or two. And he went and taught himself trigonometry. Y'all can be anything you want to be. That's the one thing that they told us when we were little kids, at least for Gen X. They told us we could be anything we wanted to be. It's even easier now. The information is everywhere. Just reach up in the sky and grab it. But you say we need $5 a mile to operate these trucks. I don't. My cost is $1.70. I don't need $5 a mile. I'll take $5 a mile when I can get it. What did I just say? We just booked a load that's $8,000 for 600 miles. That's $13.33 a mile. Let's see. We just did one. It was 10,000. 10,000, and that was 1385. That was 722. I don't need the government to force people to pay me $5 a mile. We're already getting it. If you want $5 a mile, go out and figure out how to be worth $5 a mile. So if we can do it, we're not special. We don't have magical powers. We just go out and get the rates because we're worth it. We have the equipment. We have the experience. We have the drivers. We have everything that we need. Just had 2 trucks do each load over $10,000. They ran together. If you want to achieve something, go achieve it. But you're not going to take some shortcut where you get the government of all people to force the market to suit your whims. I can make money at $1.71. If you can't, that's not my problem. That's your problem. How to calculate a CPM, cost per mile. Take all of your expenses and divide them by the miles you drove. That's it. All right, y'all. We're coming up on 2 hours. That's long enough. We'll be back with you next Friday. Check us out, blueribbonlogistics.com. If you are interested in learning on the job, kind of an apprenticeship type deal, blueribbonlogistics.com. We have an 18-month masterclass. You can come drive one of our trucks on a W-2. You don't have any risk. You don't sign up for lease payments and all that crap. You get a driver contract, you get paid on a W-2 with direct deposit, and you spend 18 months learning from I'm not the only guy here. We have Blake, the owner of the company, that has years of business experience. We have Phil and Barb, who are experienced platform operators that run our platform division and dispatch all of our loads. If you want to learn, there are people out there that are willing to teach you, not just us. There's lots of people that have a heart of a teacher that want to teach, but you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You ought to use one twice as much as you do the other. And if you don't know how something works, go find somebody that does and take notes. But stop regurgitating nonsense, because that's what it is. I have every piece of documentation required to show you that our cost of operation, including saving 25 cents a mile for maintenance, is $1.70. That's a freaking lie. Just because you don't know how to do something doesn't mean it's not a lie. It just means that you don't know how to do it, which means you're the problem, not me. So again, why don't you learn from people that know how to do things rather than sit and run your trap about how just because you can't figure it out must mean it can't be true.